College athletes have always been money-making machines for schools, coaches, media companies, and advertisers across the country, and yet not one of the kids who are doing the actual work have seen a dime, at least legally. And why? Because the NCAA just said no. Talking about people like Caitlin Ohashi, a former gymnast at UCLA whose perfect 10 routine went viral her senior year, and yet
over 100 million views.
Amazing routine.
Along with this came a lot of attention and opportunities, but I couldn't capitalize on them.
One of the biggest stars in collegiate gymnastics, Caitlin Ohashi.
I was handcuffed by the NCAA rules that prevented me from deriving any benefit from my own name and likeness.
at least that was the rule. But this week, the NCAA board announced they're changing things up and will let student athletes make money off their names and likenesses. That means they can sign endorsement deals with big brands, take a cut of the profits from their jerseys. But there's a catch, at least in my opinion, because the students who'll be offered those endorsement deals and those whose jerseys will be flying off the shelves will be the cream of the crop, the kids who are likely to go pro probably, and that's not many. Fewer than 10% of kids who play college baseball, for example, get drafted to play professionally. In men's basketball, the rate is just over 1%. For women's basketball, it's less than 1%, and in football, it's just over 1.5%. So what happens to those hundreds of thousands of athletes who work just as hard and endure most, if not the same, physical toll, many of whom don't even make it to graduation? Every year, Derek Jackson, a former Boston Globe writer who now writes for The Undefeated, combed through the NCAA graduation rate database and found some pretty glaring disparities. For example, at UC Berkeley in 2018, only 57% of African-American men on the football team successfully graduated from the school, a whole 30% less than white players. And their basketball team, even worse. Only 40% went on to graduate, but for whites, a perfect score. It's a discrepancy that's hard to ignore. So the least likely to go pro and the least likely to get a degree to help them get a good job, otherwise those who need help most, get nothing. Well, here's a better idea than this whole profiting from endorsements and jerseys thing, courtesy of a University of Colorado Boulder professor in the New York Times, suggesting schools treat sports like they treat science. Per the Bayh-Dole Act, signed by President Jimmy Carter in 1980, schools get ownership over any of the professors' or students' scientific achievements, but all profit from the achievement is split among those who contributed. Seems like the perfect solution to me, which means the NCAA will likely just keep saying no.